about to enter a dimension. A dimension not only of sight, sound, taste, or even mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. There's a signpost up ahead. Next stop, the Jake Stief Zone. Hi, I'm Jakey Stief, and in today's tutorial I'm going to teach you how to use a Royal KHM typewriter. I will show you how to use every single part of this typewriter. I'll teach you the terms, how I know them as well. Okay, to start our Royal KHM typewriter tutorial, the first part I'm going to teach you about is the carriage. This whole piece moves across your typewriter. Its basic function is to carry the piece of paper which you're typing on across the typeface. If it's to the left of your typewriter, you're going to want to slide it all the way to the right until you can push it no further. Before I put a piece of paper in to show you how to use the rest of the typewriter, I'm going to teach you about the few pieces up here. This is the paper table. This just basically holds your piece of paper up so it doesn't get warped. This here is called the platen, or the cylinder. It's rubber in this case. And it just basically allows you to easily rotate your paper as you shift from line to line. This here is called the bail rail, and connected to that is two bail rolls. These basically just hold your paper in place as you type across the typeface. It keeps it from getting in your way because usually it'll flop down if you don't have your bail rails and bail roll in place. It flips up if you want, and you can move these along the rail. Next part I'm going to show you is the platen knobs. There's one on the left, and that turns the platen. There's one on the right. And right here, this little lever. This is called the paper feeder. If you want to put a piece of paper in, you simply push this lever up, and a little cylinder roll, just like the platen except a lot smaller, will move inside of your typewriter. As you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but there is a little roll inside of there that moves whenever you hit this lever. Basically holds your paper in place on the bottom, just like most of the other parts which I showed you. Okay, to start, you're going to grab a regular piece of paper, make sure it's aligned, put it in there like so. Open your paper feeder, or release your paper feeder, I guess you could say. Put the paper down in further. Put the paper feeder back. And twist the platen knobs. Your paper should then start to appear. Once it comes up about an inch or two, you release your paper bail, or your bail rail. Slide the paper under it like so, and hold in place. Now you can freely move your paper around without getting in your way. So now I'm going to tell you the basic function of each of these keys on the typeface. Typeface is just where your fingers will strike the keys so that you can print on the paper. So let me get you into some typewriter lingo first of all. This is called the key top, and what it's connected to is called the key lever. Okay. So I'll start off with the characters and the different characters that are on the keys. You have 2 through 9, 0, and the hyphen. Then there are a few extra symbols up above to use during your typing. You have standard A through Z QWERTY style type face. I'll tell you how the QWERTY came about in another video. You have a few fractions, the fourth and a half, colon, semicolon, at sign, cent sign, question mark, slash, period, and comma. So basically, if you want to type on your paper, you just simply hit a key with some force, and voila, it will appear. I hit the T, say I want to write the word then. I would type H-E-N, and there you go, then. Now, since this is the start of a sentence, you notice I do not have a capital T. How do you do a capital T? Simple. You simply hold down the shift bar and press any of the letters you want, and that'll give you a capital letter. Like that. Show you my fingers as I do that, holding down the shift bar, and then press, and it is a capital. Now what happens whenever I hit the shift key, it brings the type bar section, which is where all these little levers are. Well, I'll go tell you what they are right now. Whenever you strike a key, it pushes down on a little lever. And whenever you push down on that lever, it pulls another lever. And this is called the type bar. And connected to that is a spring for some tension on your lever. And then on the type bar, you see there's a type slug, which has your characters, uppercase and lowercase, and with the numbers, there's the number and the extra symbol. So basically you push down, it goes up, it strikes the paper. Whenever you hit the shift key, it brings your type bar section down slightly. As you can see there, it brings it down, and now the top part of your type slug will strike the bar instead of the bottom part. Okay, now say you want to have caps lock. In a typewriter term, caps lock is shift lock. You simply press the shift lock down, and now you can type, and every single letter that you type will be capital. One thing about this that you should know is whenever you press a key like 2, it doesn't type 2, it types the symbol above, unlike caps lock. So if you want to do the symbol above, you have to unshift lock it, and you do that by pressing the shift button, and it releases the shift lock. Also, there's the shift key on the other side too, but no shift lock. Okay, so let's say you're typing along, say, I'm not going to type anything, I'm just going to not do a sentence, I'll just put the period there for you. Put your period, say you want to type a number. You go to the 1. You realize that there is no 1. So what do? To save money, they tried to eliminate as many characters as they can. So you simply do a lowercase l for your 1. And that signifies the lowercase l and the 1. So you're typing along, you do an exciting sentence, and then say you find that there's no exclamation point. What do you do then? I know this doesn't really look like an exclamation point, but this is what people had to do back then. You would type the period, hit the backspace key, which moves your carriage back 1 character. As you can see, it brings it back. And then you hit the apostrophe, and it brings it up. Sorry. So you're writing, and you have a pretty good story going along. It's pretty exciting. You're writing an exciting sentence, and you realize there's no exclamation point. What do? Well, in order for manufacturers to save money, they would try to save the most amount of parts as they could. So, in order to do an exclamation point, you'd have to type a period on your typeface, hit the backspace key, which is right here, and that moves your carriage back to the space you were previously on, or the character you were previously on. Then you have to hit shift and apostrophe, and you have an exclamation point. Seems a bit hard, but that's what you gotta do. Also, this is the space bar. Hit that, moves the carriage along 1 space without typing anything. Another thing with the backspace, you can write a letter back, write another letter over it. Or if you don't think you typed hard enough, you can hit the backspace key and type over that letter again. Okay, so say you've started typing, and you hear that bell. What does that mean? That means you have 6 characters left before your carriage can go no further. That means you can type 6 more letters, or strike a key 6 more times before your carriage will stop. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It stops it. As you can see, I cannot press the key down. It's locked it. What do you do now? There's one of two things you could do. If you want to continue, you can press this thing called margin release. And what that does is releases the set margins within the typewriter, which you can also manually set. And you can now type a few more characters, 2 characters more, most likely. And then it stops it again. Okay, so what do you do now? Now you press this carriage return lever until you bring your carriage all the way to the right until you can move it no further. You notice it did this, and it also brought your paper up a line, or 2 or 3. Now if it brought it up 2 or 3, your typewriter isn't broken. It just means that your line space control was set at a different number. Now you'll notice that this right here has a few numbers on it. This lever will control this little cylinder which has 1, 2, and 3 on it. This little thing right here will signify which of the numbers it is at. Right now it's at a 3, so it brought mine up 3 spaces. I want to change that, so I simply press this back. It brings the cylinder back. Now we're at 2 spaces. I want 1 space, so I push it back again. Now it will only move 1 space whenever I bring the carriage return lever over. So you messed up. You just simply twist your platen knob and bring it back down. Now you should type right below your previous line. Now let's say that was the, let's say you want to start a paragraph and you want to indent. You don't have to press 5 spaces. You simply hit a key called tabular, and it will move your carriage over a certain set amount of spaces, like this. Press it, and I have mine set for every 5 characters, I think. But you can manually change yours. I'll show you how to do that right now. Okay, so we're in the back of our typewriter. Front, back. And you can see that there are a lot of little metal things right here. These are called tab blades. And this whole thing is called the tab rack. Now, what this does is it sets how many spaces your carriage will move every time you hit tab. So if I hit tab at the beginning, it moves it over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters. Hit it again and it moves it over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters. Now you can manually change this. You can either do this by flipping each of the blades yourself into the set position you want it, or by hitting something called the tab set key, or tab stop set key. First off, let me tell you that each indented one, as we see from this position, means that your carriage will stop at this tab blade. I won't go into how this works too much. It might be a bit complicated, get you off track on how to actually use the typewriter. So, say you have your paper in. And you want your tab to be right here, your first tab. You press the tab stop set, and it will move one of your tab blades into the outwards position, or the indented position, and you will now stop at this point whenever you hit tab. So I'll move this back a few characters. I hit tab, stops right there. Now one thing that you do not want to do, as it may break your typewriter, is set all of these into the inward position. Whenever you hit tab, your carriage will go flying to the left and could break a few pieces. So I suggest at most have a tab indented every 10 spaces, 10 characters. Don't do no more than that, otherwise it could break your carriage. So I think I've covered the tab pretty good. If you want to reset them, you simply push them back in like this. Let me move my carriage over a bit. So I want this one pushed back in. I simply push this back in. Sadly, there is no lever which pushes it back in on its own. You have to do that yourself.